Oh yeah, it's time. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Toast Hammer. Trying something kind of new with the camera. Let me know what you think. But the year is coming to a close. I have one goal yet unfulfilled, finishing out my big night. In the last video in this saga, you saw me tackle the challenges of the airbrush for the first time ever in my adult career. Or childhood one, too. I don't know why I said it like that. But now we get to the fun stuff. Weathering, freehanding, and just putting on all of those little finishing touches for the big boy. So let's get right into it. So, as I do all things, weathering is the final step. Technically, OSL is the final step, but there's not a ton of OSL to do on this guy, so we're going to start with the freehanding. I decided to eat my dessert first and try to do some script on the chest piece, denoting his knightly house. Now, I wasn't super confident in how to do this in the rest of the freehand, so I did print out a sheet of reference images that I could look at while trying my best to keep a steady hand and print out these freehand bits. The first part, of course, being Gothic lettering, well known for its ease of painting. Now, the sharp-eyed among you might notice that I am, writing the name upside down, and I don't notice this until I glue the piece into the night. I do get rid of that for now, and I'll redo it at a later point in time. But it was a good practice round. Truly, the chess piece on the knight it's so hard to mentally orient before it's on the model, and I swear I get it wrong literally every single time I try. But hey, it turned out not terrible, and I think I'll do an even better job when I decide to fix it up later. With that sort of botched lettering job out of the way, the next part was a sort of brocade or arabesque pattern on the shoulder pads. And this I thought was literally going to take forever, but it only took about 10 minutes per shoulder pad. And so I got a little bit ambitious and decided to do a bit of the carapace armor around the door, as well as the foot armor as well. Those sort of larger armor plates where such a pattern could be represented well without just becoming a blurry mess. The unfortunate thing is I got better as I was doing it, which is good for me, but bad because I started on the most prominent parts on the shoulders instead of starting on something maybe a little bit less mission critical. Like the feet instead. But overall, I do think the effect turned out really well, and was really nice to see proof of my theory that using a gloss medium over a matte finish could produce an interesting texture and an interesting pattern that sets itself apart from other knights and other miniature paint jobs that I have previously seen. After that freehanding was done, it was time to move onto water slide transfers and other miscellaneous details that I still had to pick out. At this point, I didn't really have a good personal crest for this night, and I was running out of time, so I just kind of slapped a gear on the tilt shield and called it good, and reflected that sigil in the back as well, using, of course, micro set and micro sol, as well as some matte varnish in order to give it a more painted on look. And then getting to it later in the weathering step will incorporate it even better. Another part where I added transfers was on the Thunderstrike Gauntlet, in which I wanted to add sort of a kill count for our knight. He has a couple of large skulls. I'm thinking that might represent super heavy engine kills, other knights and large weapons of that sort, and a couple of small kills as well, because he can punch a tank too. So I got those skulls in and used the same technique I did on the livery to incorporate those more smoothly into the paint job. I also did his under crotch banner, kind of a weird thing in general, but overall, just did some faux scripting with some squiggles of white paint, as well as a nice little transfer to give it that extra accent that it deserves. And with that, we are ready to get into weathering. Now, often I employ oil washes for this step. Indeed, I did for the metal understructure of this knight. But in the interest of time, I wanted to experiment with some acrylic inks instead, specifically this raw umber transparent ink, which I found great for doing things like picking out rivets on the trim, and also getting a nice sort of like glossy sheen, sort of an oil exhaust going in some of the back ports as well, and other just various places I thought it would fit. It truly was really awesome applying onto metallics. On the matte finish parts, not as much unless you're going for a very specific look. But I didn't need a ton of weathering on this guy. I'm imagining him to be a somewhat new knight. Where we did get to do some heavier weathering is with battle damage, which is where I sort of incorporated the transfers into the piece a lot more by going over them with black paint or colored paint to represent scratches in the armor. Really just sort of surface imperfections. Not much is getting through the plate of a knight, and not much is even getting to the plate of a knight, so I didn't feel like it needed a ton of battle damage, and I didn't actually do any physical battle damage like boring out holes or dents or anything of that nature with this model. So I figured just some surface scratches would probably be fine. I did make sure to do a lot more of that on the gauntlet, because that is something that would actually be contacting other things frequently. So I made sure to get that nice and scratched up on the armor plates. And in the deeper gouges, I even applied some metallic silver to the black in a smaller portion to indicate that the paint had been entirely scraped off of that surface, revealing the unpainted metallic exterior of the plate itself. So with all of these scratches and gun pocks and things of that nature, we were pretty much done, but there were still a couple steps left. The first was actually an oil wash. If you have seen my armature video, you know that they are kicking up a lot of dust and ruin from the world or city that they are traipsing through. So I prepared an oil wash of a light off-white paint to represent all of the dust that would be kicked up and kind of stuck in the crevices of the plate and feet of the model itself, and applied that liberally throughout the lower portion of the model's stature. And the last step was to get out our blood effects. I was imagining, since these knights are painted or depicted with their basing to be in an active war zone, that it would be very fun if this guy's Thunder Strike Gauntlet had just like crushed a guy or something. So I wanted to make it really bloody. So I covered the inside of it with a blood effect. And then I tried to do something new again and took out some Uhu glue, which is known for making a big sticky mess of a lot of things and making some really kind of gross sinewy chunks and lines of goop across the gauntlet as well, to give it that extra gory effect, which I then applied the blood effect paint to as well, to make it just a really messy mess. But with that, my big knight is finally complete. It was truly just these last few steps that were preventing me from taking it across the finish line. There was a lot that was done behind the scenes, all of the metallics being applied and the trim and things of that nature, but that truly was just kind of base coating. One other thing I did was try and do a sort of heat exhaust effect on the rapid fire battle cannon, which seems like the largest gun and thus should maybe have some distortion or kind of residue from it being fired just towards the tip there, which I did with that same acrylic raw umber ink. But without further ado, let's take a look at the first proper knight of House Malheur. I very much hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please leave a like. It always helps out the channel. I'm super happy to have my first night in the bag, and I'm really happy with how all of the freehanding and new stuff I tried turned out, and I'm really proud of the final result. So if you are on this night building or painting journey with me, let me know how it's going in the comments below, or say hi in the Toast Hammer Discord. If you want some more night action, more army action, more Warhammer action in general, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single video. And until next time, peace!